Why does blowing out candles feel different at 30 than it did at 8? At 8, a birthday was pure event. Cake, presents, being the center of the universe for exactly one day. Nobody was evaluating anything. The only question was whether you got the flavor you wanted. At 30, something has quietly shifted. The cake is still there. The people who love you are still there. But somewhere between the candles and the singing, a small internal voice pipes up. So, how are we doing? Not the general "how are you doing" of polite conversation. The specific, slightly uncomfortable version, how are we doing against the plan? And suddenly, your birthday, which was supposed to be about celebration, starts to feel surprisingly like a performance review. Nobody scheduled this, nobody sent a calendar invite, and yet here it is, arriving reliably every single year. And the strange thing is, you can see it coming. You know your birthday is approaching for weeks. You have plenty of time to prepare, and yet every year the performance review catches you slightly off guard anyway, as if part of you genuinely believed this year would be different. This year you'd have everything sorted. This year the internal voice would show up. Look around at your life and simply say, yes, this is fine. Carry on. It has never once said that, and yet the optimism persists, which is actually one of the most human things about birthdays. We keep expecting them to feel like pure celebration. And we keep being slightly surprised when they feel like something more complicated. Here's what's actually happening. And it's more interesting than it is depressing. Your brain is a pattern-seeking machine, and one of the patterns it loves most is the annual round number. A new year, a new decade, a birthday. These are what psychologists call temporal landmarks. Moments that your brain instinctively uses to divide time into chapters. Before this, after this, the year I turned 20, the year I turned 35. And chapters, by their nature, invite a very specific kind of question. What happened in this one? This isn't anxiety. This is your brain doing exactly what it was designed to do, taking stock, looking for patterns, checking whether the story is going in the direction you expected. The problem isn't the checking. The problem is what you compare yourself against when you do it. Because here's the thing about the benchmarks most people carry. They were set by a much younger version of you. A version that had enormous confidence and almost no real-world information. The 17-year-old who was absolutely certain. They knew how their 30s would look. The 22-year-old who mapped out a 5-year plan with the serene confidence of someone who had never once had their 5-year plan completely derailed by Tuesday. Those versions of you wrote the targets, and those targets are the ones your birthday holds up for inspection every single year, which is a little unfair because what those earlier versions didn't know. What they couldn't have known is that life is significantly more interesting and considerably less predictable than any 5-year plan accounts for. The detours turned out to be the good parts. The plan B became the actual life. The thing you were certain you wanted by now turned out to be something you're genuinely glad you didn't get. Think about the things that actually matter to you right now. The friendships, the work, the small daily things that make a Tuesday feel like a good day. How many of those were in the plan? How many of them arrived sideways? Through a detour, a mistake, a change of direction. You didn't choose so much as accept. The life you're actually living is full of things that 22-year-old you didn't think to put on the list, which suggests the list was always going to be incomplete. Not because you planned badly, because life is bigger than any plan you can make for it, before you've actually lived any of it. But the benchmark doesn't know any of that. It just sits there, fixed at 22, quietly holding a list of things that were supposed to have happened. Here's the surprisingly good news. Research on what psychologists call fresh start moments birthdays, New Year's, the first day of a new month. Shows that these dates don't just create pressure, they also create genuine momentum. People are measurably more likely to start something new, commit to something they've been putting off, and reconnect with goals that have drifted in the weeks around a birthday than at any other point in the year. Your brain isn't just auditing you, it's also quietly asking a different question. What do I actually want next? This is worth paying attention to, because most of us spend the birthday focusing on the audit, the gap, the checklist, the distance between where we are and where we thought we'd be, and we spend almost no time on the other question, the forward-facing one. Not, did I achieve what I planned, but what do I actually want to move toward next? And those are surprisingly different questions. The first one looks backward. It measures you against a fixed point set in the past. The second one looks forward. It gives you permission to want something new, something that reflects who you actually are now, rather than who you thought you'd be. One of those questions is genuinely useful, the other is just uncomfortable. Your birthday offers you both. You get to choose which one you spend more time with. There's one more thing worth noticing. The birthday that feels heaviest is almost never the one where things are actually worst. It's the one where the gap between where you are and where you expected to be is most visible. And here's what's interesting about that gap. It always looks larger from the outside than it does once you start moving. The distance between where you are now and where you want to be is not fixed. It just feels fixed when you're standing still looking at it on your birthday. Somewhere between the candles and the second slice of cake. You don't have to have it figured out. You don't have to be where you thought you'd be. You don't have to match the plan that someone younger and more optimistic drew up on your behalf. You just have to know approximately what direction feels right. And that's something a birthday, for all its checkpoint energy, is actually quite good at reminding you of. The candles aren't a countdown, they're just candles, and the year ahead is genuinely open. If this made you think about what you actually want next, a like tells us to keep going. So what's one thing you want the next chapter to look like? That has nothing to do with where you thought you'd be by now. Until next time, keep shifting your perspective. Subscribe for more Mind Shift.